Did you see that? That was a drone crash. It happened in Moscow. This morning, 8 drones flew towards the Russian capital. Today, Moscow was targeted. 8 drones flew towards the Russian capital. Several buildings were damaged. At least 2 drones crashed into residential towers. No deaths were reported, but evacuations had to be ordered. This is the biggest attack on Moscow yet. The war has reached Russia's doorstep. Russia says it destroyed all 8 drones, but the damage was visible. There were marks on at least 3 high-rise buildings. Some of the residents heard loud bangs. There was the smell of petrol in the air. Some eyewitnesses shot videos. They saw a plume of smoke above the Moscow skyline.
I live on the second floor of the building across the street, building number 32. In the morning, around 4 a.m., I had a look already. There was a deafening bang, as if a huge bolt of lightning had struck somewhere near. I thought it was caused by an air defense system going off, because I live in the area where that can happen. I know how it sounds. I came out to have a look. There were lots of emergency services on site, and you could see that the top of the building was damaged. It turns out it was not the air defenses. That means it was something more serious, something more interesting.
Where was Putin when drones flew into Russia today? Reports say he was outside the city. Russian Defense Ministry says this was a terrorist attack. Who was behind it? Russia is blaming Ukraine. Kyiv is denying any role, but it is sending a clear message to Moscow. Expect more strikes in the coming days. A presidential advisor to Zelensky spoke out today. He said Kyiv had no connection to the aerial assault. But we are watching with pleasure and we predict an increase in the number of attacks. That's what he had to say. Those are the words of a presidential advisor. The fact is, Russian territories are increasingly coming under attack. Just look at the timeline of recent events. This month, there were strikes on Russian oil pipeline installations. Even the Kremlin was targeted. 2 drones blew up above the Kremlin. Do you remember this? Russia said Ukraine tried to assassinate Putin. Kyiv had rejected Moscow's claims. We have heard similar denials about a week ago as well, when towns near the border came under attack. Yes, I'm talking about the Belgorod incursions. About a week ago, it came under attack. It was one of the largest cross-border raids yet. The villages in Belgorod were evacuated. Russia says it killed 70 attackers. It insists the fighters were Ukrainians. Russian officials released pictures. They showed damaged Western military vehicles. Again, Ukraine issued a denial. They said the Russian militia is behind the attacks. 2 groups came forward to take responsibility: the Russian Volunteer Corps and Freedom of Russia Legion. They sent out this message to Moscow.
Our future plans are entering new territories of the Russian Federation, which we will definitely enter. In principle, you should just be a little bit patient and wait just a couple of days to see us again on that side.
That's like a declaration of war. Ukraine likes to maintain a distance from these groups. But going by some claims, they have links to Ukraine's army, and they are helping out the Ukrainian forces to catch the Russian forces off guard and split their military resources. Ahead of that planned counteroffensive, all this helps Ukraine. How will Russia respond? Well, the Kremlin won't take this lying down. They will hit back hard. Already, attacks on Kyiv are intensifying. Russian forces have struck Ukraine's capital 17 times so far. The mass airstrikes continue today. At least 1 person died. Residential buildings were damaged and there was panic. I want to show you some pictures. This could be disturbing for some viewers. We advise viewer discretion. We are entering a new phase in this war, one that could define its outcome. But targeting civilian populations on both sides could have dangerous repercussions. And now it's time for Vantage shots, images that tell the story. Starting with the United States, a shooting happened at a beach in Florida. 9 people, including children, have been injured. In Turkey, An event celebrating Erdogan's return to power went horribly wrong. Fireworks exploded in the hands of a person. In Italy, 3 new skeletons have been found in Pompeii. They are victims of a catastrophic volcanic eruption that happened about 2,000 years ago. And finally, what makes May 30th significant? Taking you back in history, on this day, 1942, the British Royal Air Force dispatched more than 1,000 bombers against Germany. This was codenamed Operation Millennium. Germany's 4th largest city, Cologne, was heavily damaged in this attack. It was this operation that had set the tone for RAF's future operations during the Second World War. We leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
We have a long list of German cities in which the vital industries of the German war machine are established. All these it will be our stern duty to deal with, as we have already dealt with Lübeck, with Rostock, and half a dozen important places. The civil population of Germany.
More views of Cologne show the complete devastation wrought in this most important industrial center. Wonderfully preserved is the great cathedral. Although windows have been shattered, the ancient fabric has been comparatively lightly touched by the destruction.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.